It pains me to see restaurant owners and leaders tied to their restaurants 24/7. They feel like if I want things done right, I got to be here all the time. I'm missing their soccer games and their graduations, but I got to be here. It doesn't have to be that way. What if you can empower any member of your team to learn a piece of your business, execute it, and get a reward for doing so? It's all turnkey in something called the Restaurant Academy at restaurantrockstars.com. Free your time, give your people more value so they don't leave you. Longevity goes up, turnover goes down, and you build a team, a dream team, I call it. Check it out at restaurantrockstars.com. I've been in this business for 30 years. One of the secrets or the keys to my success was marketing. So I'm going to dive right in because today's show is all about the best marketing ideas. I travel and I speak at many different restaurant shows, and I talk to lots of different restaurateurs and general managers. I like to call them leaders. And they always ask me, what's a great marketing idea? I stop them right there and I ask them two questions. One, what are you spending now on your marketing, or what's your marketing budget? And two, can you track it? Do you know where the business is coming from? And most of them shake their head and say, no, I don't know that. I know what I spend. I spend a lot of money, but I don't know if it works. Why? Because these are usually experiments. And that's a good way to throw lots of money out the window. Now, I get it. Again, I owned restaurants for 23 years, and the phone rang off the hook all the time. And people showed up at the back door with no appointments all the time. And people were trying to sell us things, sell me things that I thought I didn't need. And that, again, happens all the time. And you become jaded really quickly. So it's really easy to fall into that trap of, in a moment of weakness, the phone rings and someone says, oh, if I put you on the radio, everyone driving to work will stop at your place after work. Or how about this magazine ad? Again, you're going to spend thousands of dollars on something. And unless everybody or many people walk in the door and say, hey, Roger, I heard you on the radio, or I saw your ad in that magazine, which never happens, you'll never know if what you're spending has a return on investment. What a waste, right? There's a better way. I created my own marketing programs that were my own strategy. And I know that it's far easier. I knew then that it's far easier to market to your best guests, your existing guests, within the four walls of your restaurant. I call that internal marketing, and that is so much more cost effective than all those traditional ads or radio or TV or all that kind of stuff. Think about the power of the internal marketing. Reach your best guests. I call them brand ambassadors, okay? Than it is to look for new guests all the time. I wanted to build what I call affinity with my guests. Now, I love the word affinity. It's a powerful sense of belonging or loyalty to your place. This is our place. This is where we go. We love this place because. And of course, you got to lay the foundation. You got to give your guests lots of reasons to love your place. All of your team are brand ambassadors for your business as well. Anyone in the front of house that interacts with a guest is really there to make friends and to invite those people back and give them lots of reasons to come back. Those are your front lines. Those are what I call influencers. So, internal marketing. What can you do within the walls of your business to promote everything that's unique, special, or different about your business? I call those hooks. Now, you should make a list and figure out what are the cool things that people tell us they really like, or what are our most profitable items? What are the things that set us apart from the competition that no one else does? Those are unique. Those are what we call hooks. Okay? You want to create an ambiance that people feel comfortable in, that they can relate to, that makes them believe this is our place. We love it. We feel so comfortable here. We're recognized by the staff. The food is great. The drinks are great. And the ambiance, all those things combined. And that's super important. But it all starts with branding and brand building. I always talk about running a business, not running a restaurant, building a brand, a powerful brand. And that all starts with a logo and your fonts and your colors. And is it consistent? And is it on target to your strategy? That's really important. Consistency. Now, the more regulars that my team attracted, that we got to know by name, we treated them like the most important guests in the place. They were treated by VIPs. That's affinity. When you walk into a restaurant and you're immediately recognized by the team and people say hello, hey Jerry, hey George, hey Roger, hey Mary, you get the idea. You feel like you're part of something. So that comes with training as well, okay? Once you've got a powerful brand and you created an amazing logo and you've got regulars coming in all the time. Now's the time to start a retail merchandise program. Now you can start small. You don't have to break the bank and go out and get 10 different sizes and 30 different colors, but just a t-shirt and a hat or something uniquely recognizable. And you'll find that quickly people will pay money to advertise your business where they live or even when they're on vacation, or you get the idea. People really like merchandise and their impulse purchases. You ever go to Disneyland or any theme park, you know that you can't walk through a park without going through at least 10 or 15 different retail outlets. Certainly when you walk into the park, certainly when you leave the park, but sprinkled throughout because, again, they've recognized it's a profit center and impulse sales happen all the time. But as your brand grows, and if you get creative, and if you've got a cool logo, and you just bring in a couple of hats and t-shirts just to start, even have your team wear them as uniforms if you've got a casual place, not fine dining, of course, I get that. But think about it. We sold an awful lot of merchandise, and it was marketed internally. Next, let's talk about what your hooks are again, because hooks are the most powerful thing that set you apart from the competition. We had several hooks. We had a wood-burning brick oven because my very first restaurant was a pizzeria. My last restaurant was a combination, live music and entertainment, huge bar, pizzeria, sushi, steaks, you get the idea. But the showplace, the showpiece was a wood-burning, beautiful brick oven that blazed fire at 900 degrees, and the pizza makers were firing the pizzas and stuff, and the pizza makers were making it, and everybody came up with their phones and they were taking pictures, and that was free marketing on social media, and they'd ask questions, and that was a hook. The coolest hook I ever saw was a bar I went to in Killington, Vermont, because I'm a huge skier, and this was a long time ago, and I'd never been to this place before. I never knew anything about it, but it was like a pub-style bar restaurant place, and it was in a good location, so I pulled in, and I had a seat at the bar. I didn't want to sit by myself. Sometimes I like sitting at the bar. So I'm seated, and they've got the bank of bar taps in front of them. And I heard this click sound, and then all of a sudden I see a conveyor belt going underneath the bar taps, and there's a pint glass going click, click under the beer taps. And every now and again, the bartender would pick up a glass and pour the beer. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And I looked to the right of the bar, and I saw a hole cut in the side of the building, just big enough for these pint glasses to go through. And they go around. And then I look to the left, and now these pints are coming in a hole cut on the left side of the building. And I suddenly realized this is winter time. We're at a ski resort. And now all these pint glasses are riding the conveyor belt outside into the cold Vermont night and coming in the other side, frosty cold like you wouldn't believe. And the bartender picks one up and pours you the coldest beer you ever had. That was a hook. We had a giant moose over our bar, like a moose head that someone donated, and we put a smoke machine in it. So whenever somebody, came in and they had a mug club, I'm going to talk about mug clubs in a minute, but when they had their mug membership and they came in and we recognized them, someone would press the button and smoke would come out of the moose's nose and mouth and ears, and it was really wild. And we had a giant bell behind the bar to recognize these people. Again, VIP recognition. Ding, ding. These people felt special. That was a hook. We had live rock bands and a dance floor, and we even had a snowmaking machine because we were at a winter resort as well. And this would make snow that would come down and cool people off while they were dancing. Because when you're at a ski resort, snowmaking is a big deal, right? We had our own snowmaking machine within the bar. These are all hooks. These were things that set us apart from the competition. And I recommend that you cannot have too many hooks. So make a list, talk to your team, have them say, hey, what's unique, special, or different at our place? What do the guests really can appreciate and talk about? These are social media moments. These are photo ops that people will post. And again, it'll increase sales of those items. Okay, those were the big things. We also had glacier bowls. Okay, this was another. Let's talk about cash cows. A cash cow is an item that contributes pure profit. It costs very little to serve to the guest, yet it looks amazing. It's got what I call wow factor, right? Costs very little, high perceived value. That's a hook. So we had some drinks, some specialty cocktails that we called glacier bowls. It was essentially a big goblet, like a fish bowl with a stem, and it held like 40 ounces of liquid. If you were to fill it all up, it was 40 ounces, but you'd pack it with ice, and then every drink had 2 shots in it, and then filled with fruit juice, and then a little splash of blue curacao or grenadine, which would make it glow like antifreeze, those funky red and green colors. And then the kicker was we put glow sticks in each one. You go to those parades and you see the kids wearing the bracelets and the necklaces and they snap them and then suddenly it glows when it's dark out. We put them in the drinks, right? If you pick the right ones, no problem. We put them in the drinks and it made the drinks glow from the inside out. And that was pretty spectacular as well. And they sold themselves. It was a hook. And anytime it went through the bar on a server's tray or through the dining room, people would point at it that had never seen it before and say, "What's that? I want that." And you could see them on all the tables. These were pure profit. I think we charged like $20 for them and the cost was about $1.50. So that was like every time you sold one, you're just printing money. That's a cash cow. And that was a hook. So hooks are super important. All right. You want to promote your highest profit items. I talked about that in my last episode, all about maximizing menu profit. You need to know what your highest profit items are. You need to train your staff how to sell and promote those items because, again, they lower your food cost, they raise your profit. Where do you promote these internal giant chalkboards? I loved having giant chalkboards throughout my restaurants because they weren't professional, but I had people on my team at just about every restaurant I had that had artistic ability. And if you gave them some colored chalk, they could make amazing pictures on these chalkboards. And we would promote our hooks and they would draw a picture. Sometimes they draw a picture of what that hook was and really cool, encouraging copy that would get people to say, "Hey, get me one of those." So that was internal marketing. We also had posters in the bathrooms over bulletin boards, on the stall doors, over the urinals, all that kind of stuff. Even on the door that you would leave to get out of the men's or ladies' room, we had promotional posters. And what were they? Our highest profit items, our hooks, all the things we wanted people to buy. And that was super, super huge. We also had table tents on the tables. And I know that's not appropriate, again, for a fine dining place. But again, if you get a casual place, people look at things when they're waiting for their food or they've ordered a drink and now they're deciding what to order on the menu before your staff have made lots of recommendations on what's great. They see things on the table and they're like, "Oh, that's interesting." So catchy photography of your hooks will sell your items. Okay. But again, most importantly, most important is training your staff to serve and sell product knowledge so that they know your menus inside and out, and property knowledge. What's unique, special, and different about your restaurant or your bar? But, okay, unlike most front of house people in restaurants, unlike most restaurants that think, "Oh, only the servers and the bartenders are the salespeople if they sell it all," we trained every person that interacted with a guest in product and restaurant knowledge. Everybody was quizzed, and we had pop quizzes and we had contests and incentives to encourage people to learn. And again, it was all about show business. It was all about using your unique personality to know what your guests will enjoy and appreciate and to make those recommendations. Okay, not just the servers and the bartenders. We had bussers that could make recommendations. The hosts, certainly, they had to because they answered the phone for takeout and delivery orders, and they would upsell orders and they would make suggestions. And 9 times out of 10, they would be able to sell more items. So don't leave money on the table. Your team are brand ambassadors, but they're also salespeople. Super important. I always believe that the restaurant business is show business. You've heard me talk about this all the time. And I train my team. When the doors open for business, it's like the curtain goes up and it's showtime. And you're not a busser or a back waiter or a server or a bartender or a host. You're an actor on stage and you're here to dazzle the guests, give them lots of reasons to not only come back again, but tell everyone they know and to leave us positive online reviews. I really don't ever in my travels see restaurants that do this. It's just the servers and the bartenders taking the orders, bringing the food, giving you the check, if they sell it all, if they make a suggestion at all. And 9 times out of 10, they don't. So don't lose this opportunity. It's huge. Next, let's talk about influencers. I used to incentivize my best guests to promote my restaurant, and I would give them incentives for driving business. They would have their own little business card with my own logo on it and a special offer. What were the offers? Cash cows, of course. And if they stamped the back of that coupon, actually, it was a business card, so it had their name on it. I'm going to tell you about the other coupons in a minute. But every time it came in the door, my best guests received trade in my restaurant where they could just sign the check and they would accumulate trade for every dollar that came in the door. And we tracked this. Then that worked so well, I got this genius idea. Every time I opened a new restaurant and I wanted to immediately seed it with immediate business, immediate customers, I didn't just put a sign on the door, "Now open, grand opening," and hope for the best. I drove around a 5-mile radius of each new restaurant that I opened and I made a note and I sat in parking lots and I tried to identify high traffic businesses, not restaurants. We're talking about dry cleaners, movie theaters, maybe a convenience store, tanning salons, car washes. You get the idea. Anyway, I identified 5 or 6 of these businesses where customers, I call them guests, were coming in all the time and leaving, constant traffic. I approached the owner or the general leader of this business, introduced myself, said, "Hey, I'm Roger. I'm opening up a new restaurant, and I'd like to give your customers, I call them guests, I'd like to give them something absolutely free at my restaurant. All you have to do is stamp the back of the coupon so I know where it's coming from. And for every dollar that they spend that comes in the door that came from you, I'm going to give you 10% back in trade at my restaurant before tax." And we tracked that too. What was the coupon? A cash cow. Again, something that cost very little, had high perceived value. And yes, you had to buy something. Maybe you sat at the bar and you had a drink, or you sat at a table. Maybe you had 2 people with you, 3 people, 4 people. Maybe you came by yourself, but that rarely happened. Most people brought the coupon in and brought at least one person. I tracked those coupons and I tracked the average spend. And the average spend for a cash cow that cost me about 35 cents was $85. Now, this was about 10, 15 years ago. I've sold these businesses quite a while ago, so I no longer own them, but this is when I did it. Okay, so $85 average spend. Some was much higher. Some of these checks were $150 because there were 4 people there, 5, and then some came in with 2 people, but the average spend was $85. And I'm like, gotcha. Wow, that worked great. So hopefully you enjoyed our food and drink, and our service was above, several steps above what the competition was doing, and the ambiance was comfortable. But I wanted to get you back again. So I had another genius idea, and this just hit me because I'm at a convenience store. Maybe you heard this story before, but it's so powerful I have to share. I'm at a convenience store, and the person in front of me is holding up the line because they can't decide what are those colorful lottery tickets to buy. Which one? It's sweepstakes this, it's jackpot that, this one's yellow, that one's orange. It's like big dollar signs on all of them. I got to win, I want to win. And I'm like, wow, there's an idea. What if I create my own branded lottery ticket, have a printer make these things? And you know the scratch off tickets where you pull out a quarter and there's a bunch of boxes or circles or whatever. And maybe you scratch the first one and it says try again. Maybe you scratch it again, it says try again. Maybe your tickets don't win at all, but I wanted every one of my tickets to win. Why? Because it's going to bring you in the door again. So what's under one of those little circles, even after you scratch 2 that said try again, which really gets you hooked? A cash cow. And I had 6 or 7 different cash cows. I've already explained what that means. And I randomly shuffled these. So when did we give these out? So after people paid their checks. The first coupon came in the door from this business. And I didn't tell you that of those 5 or 6 businesses, I had 4 of them that actually drove $12,000 to $15,000 of new business in the door, which wonderful. They got nice trade out of that. Okay. 10% of that was trade in my restaurant where they didn't have to pay, just sign the check, but we got the extra business. And again, the average check, I told you, was $85. I wanted to get it back again. So now we're tracking these lottery tickets coming in the door. So when did we give them away? After the people paid their check and the server came back with their credit card slip to sign and give you back your cash change or your credit card. And then they'd say, hey, here's something fun. Here's a lottery ticket and I hope you win. Every ticket was a winner. Immediately, people would say, oh, wow, sweepstakes, right? We had a catchy name. We had our logo. It was our colors. You get the idea. We talked about the branding. They immediately pulled out a quarter and would try again. Oh, guess what? I won a X. They'd immediately put it in their wallet. Maybe they'd take it home and stick it under a refrigerator magnet and stuff. And then we started tracking those coupons, and then they started coming in the door. And what had happened? Again, $80 to $90 average spend for another cash cow, which was far less than $1. Okay, this is trackable marketing. I had every business stamp where it's coming from. Okay, and then I knew that these people had already been in my restaurant and it brought them back again. That's trackable. That was not an experiment. And now I got you. Now I really got you. I know you like the food. I know you like the ambiance. The service is stellar. And this is now your place. So that's a big deal. So that's influencers. Okay, that's a big deal. All right, that's what I call the eureka moment. It was like capturing lightning in a bottle. All right, so that's really cool. Let me tell you about the biggest needle mover. The biggest needle mover of all time was starting a mug club. Now, you've seen these things. You go to sports bars and you walk in the bar and the bar has all these mugs hanging over it. I was a big believer in empowering my team. Okay. Empowerment means trusting in someone to take responsibility to improve my business. I had a bar leader, and I just said one day, a long time ago, I'm like, I want to start a mug club. I didn't tell him how to do it. I just says, go start a mug club and I'll give you an incentive for every mug you sell. So he brought in these beautiful ceramic mugs. Now, as a standard pint is a 16-ounce glass, that's what the average bar patron gets when you pour him a draft beer. These were 20-ounce ceramic mugs, big, hefty mugs, beautiful, with 4 extra ounces of beer in it. Now, you can charge a little bit more. You can charge the exact same amount, or you can discount it as a value add to your members. Okay? But the biggest kicker was you could sell memberships. So to join a mug club, you got to pay anywhere from $50 to $100 a year. But what does this do? It builds affinity, because once you pay your $50, now you feel special. Now you're getting to know all the other mug club members. But the mug club members are now inviting their friends and their family and all the people they know to join the club. And now it's organically growing and selling itself. So now you can sell lots and lots of mugs for $50, $100, whatever. And it's an annual membership that you renew every single year. And the mug club members will decorate their mugs. They'll put stickers on them and they'll Sharpie marker, they'll decorate or whatever. But I found out that this had so much power because we grew the club so big that a sponsor wanted to attract our guests. Okay, so they paid for the mugs and they paid for the t-shirts, and it was just pure free and clear cash flow to have this club year after year that generated so much money. So my bar leader started with 25 mugs and he sold them out in a day. He was very well liked and he could talk a good game and all that kind of stuff. He sold these mugs, and like I said, the mug club members started selling them to their friends and their family and influencing. There's that word again. And suddenly that club grew and grew. And when I sold that place 10 years ago or so, my bar leader, he had sold about 1,200 of those mugs. And he built this custom rack over the bar with cables to big wooden beams and hooks that held all the mugs. But the big deal was my bartenders got to know each and every mug club member, the ones that really came in so often, by name. And every time somebody walked through the door, we knew what their beer was, we knew what their number was. That beer was poured before that person even got close to the bar. If it was busy and a packed bar, all that person's friends were there drinking their mugs, and they're passing that person's beer through the crowd to their friend. And the bell would ring and it was a big deal. That's affinity. That was powerful. The biggest kick of all was it might have been nice to sell 1,200 mugs every single year for free and clear $60. That was about $70,000 of cash that just came in the door. And I'm sure you could use an extra 5,000, 10,000, because I'm not suggesting, and maybe you could far exceed that depending on the size of your place. What would you do with an extra $5, 10, 15, $20,000 of cash if you had a sponsor and if you didn't have to pay for all that stuff? All you had to do was give great service. But again, the biggest kick was people that used to come into my restaurant and my bar maybe 3 times a month, twice a month, maybe, are now in there 3 and 4 days a week, and they're drinking the beer and they're buying the retail merchandise and they're telling their friends and they're selling mug memberships. And wow, that was a core audience, brand army, I used to call it. So mug clubs are really powerful. All right, let's summarize. We talked about internal marketing. We talked about influencers. We talked about the mug club. We talked about retail merchandise. We talked about all these things that are trackable, that have affinity, that build your business instead of spending lots of money and throwing it out the window on these non-trackable items. Okay, low cost, cost-effective marketing. You want the roadmap to all this? Do you want to put all these things I talked about in place? You've heard about the Academy before, but best of all, I talked about empowering people. The Academy allows you to empower any member of your team, any number of people in your team, to learn a piece of your business and actually execute it. All you have to do is encourage people, empower them, and give them an incentive for doing so. Super powerful. You can actually track their progress in your dashboard. And I call it an exit strategy. It'll just free your time. So check that out at restaurantrockstars.com. Hopefully I give you some great marketing ideas today that you can execute in your business, and really thought-provoking ideas that are proven to work, but most of all, proven ROI versus, I don't know if the business is coming in the door. I don't know if it's trackable. So don't forget, don't spend it if you can't track it. You're still here? Great. If you're having any pain points or challenges in your restaurant, reach out to me, Roger, Roger, at restaurantrockstars.com. I'd be happy to answer your emails. Or if you think you'd like to work with me, we can do that too. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast player, because our major goal here is to help you run a profitable, more successful restaurant. So thanks again for being part of the Restaurant Rockstars podcast, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.